Hello, I am Jan from Prague, the Czech Republic, and this is a quick review of the Canon R100. We will explore what to expect from this camera, and since it's Canon's cheapest mirrorless camera, we will also take a close look at a key question: how it differs from higher-end cameras and how much those differences really matter. And as always, in my reviews, I will show you over 100 test photos so you can judge it all for yourself. So, what will you see in this video? First, we will just sum up the key technical parameters of this camera, and also I will take you inside of it, and in a recording I will show you what to expect from the key settings in menu. It should give you a quite rare glimpse into how it actually operates from inside. And then we will go to the mountains of Moravia and obviously the old streets of Prague just to sum up what to expect from the image quality, and we will have a chance to study more than 100 test photos so you really can make your own opinions. Let's do it. So what should we know about that camera? Well, the first thing is that it's really light. It's really small, and you will really enjoy taking it to a trip, well, to streets of Prague, like me right here, because it weighs only 356 grams. And as you can see, well, you can just put it to your hand and it'll just give you a chance to have something light and small. And then as far as the sensor is concerned, there is no surprise. It has 24.1 megapixels, which is, well, rather typical number for that category of cameras. What is important to point out is the speed. It's capable of up to 6.5 frames per second, which you can see in this example. A tram is going through a street here in Prague, and well, I mean, it's quite impressive because as I mentioned, officially the camera is capable up to 6.5 frames per second in that sort of shooting, which can be quite handy. But there is one quite important but. That applies only to one shot type of focusing. And if you turn on so-called servo, it means continuous autofocus, then the number drops to 3.5. And I think this is really important to note because this is one of the limits of the camera. I think if you are considering this camera, you might be looking at Canon R100. You can now see the link to my review. And I have to say, I really loved R100 because it's still cheap, it's still entry level, but well, it's much more equipped than Canon R100. One of the key differences we have already mentioned, it is the speed. The Canon R100, for instance, is able to take up to 15 frames per second, even in the sport mode, even with servo autofocus, which really can make difference for some scenarios. Also, what you won't find here are all these fancy buttons. You won't find, obviously, the multi-controller, but you won't find on R100 anyway. It's, for instance, on R10 or R8. What really is important to note is that there is no option of detection of dogs or cars. Again, you'll find that in R100 or the more advanced cameras. Does it really matter? Well, for some situations it might. And then the display is just fixed. You can't move it, and you can't even touch it. You can't control your camera by touching that display, which for some people might be a little bit annoying. Not for me. I do not care. I do not use it. I do not need it. But again, it should be noted. One more important number is number of the maximum ISO. Again, if you are a photographer, obviously one of the key aspects you would be interested in is what would be the maximum ISO and what would be the level of noise. And here, this is the maximum so-called official ISO of 12,800. And you can see that that's not bad at all. Here we start here on 800 and we go up to 12,800 here. And again, of course, you will find some noise, but it's not a disaster again for that sort of common usage. And if you want to, and you should do it, if you buy this camera, please do a little thing. Please do open menu and then find the option to use the extended ISO, which gives you the option to use that camera even up to 25,600, which matters because, as you can see from these examples, now we go from 1600 up to those levels of 25,600, which is right here. And again, of course, you will see a lot of noise, but it's up to you if you really find this photo out of the game. I do not, in fact. If you really need that, it still could be used. Let us sum up what should we expect from controls of this camera. Of course, by definition, this is an entry level. So obviously we should not expect some fancy command and fancy dials, but still I think we have a pretty decent options how to control it. If we just look at the backside, the key button would be that Q or set button, which opens that key short navigation, and we can just scroll through that and set what we want to set. So here's the key button, exposure compensation, which obviously works like here, that if I just activate it, I can tell by hitting that roller the camera to make the photo lighter, like here, or darker if I go towards left side. So then if we just turn our attention here, there is the ISO button, which again brings no huge surprises here. If we now go back to Q, to the set button, and here in the corner you have settings which are connected to auto-focusing. And this is again quite straightforward. Generally I would suggest to keep the default option. Please do note that there is the small thing called info. If I go back and I hit info and I enable it, so if it's now activated, you see what happens. I hit shutter button and the points are just locked where I just put it. And this is extremely, extremely important. If you just bought this camera, just do not forget to train this, to understand this, because it just gives you a chance to focus properly. Just a brief note about the lenses I was using. For the most of the shots in this review, I was using that kit lens 18 to 45 millimeters. It's not bad, but I have to say it's not exciting. Then I was using that again kit lens zoom 55 to 210, and I quite liked it. I have to say I liked it more than this basic kit lens. I, as always, took that famous prime lens 50 millimeters 1,8. So that gives me just option to really use it in situations like that. And again, I mean, if you have seen any of my previous videos, you know that I just love this prime lens, prime 50 millimeters, because whatever camera you take, it just gives you a chance to create great photos pretty much anywhere you are. And again, this would be one of my key advices. If you decide to buy this camera, please do invest extra money to that prime lens, because you see that you will really open new horizons. And now let's go to the streets of Prague. I have no special comments about these shots. These photos just should give you an opportunity to see which sort of result should you expect if you go, like me, to the streets of my amazing city. If you've been there, you probably know these famous places. Well, this is really amazing. Charles Bridge and Canon R100 in real action. And well, sometimes, for instance, the students of my photo training sometimes complain that they just are not able to use these cheap cameras when they want to be more creative. But again, you can see that even with the very basic kit lens 18 to 45, you are able to create results like that. And even with the kit lens, you just are able to keep nice levels of bokeh in these, well, pop shots, basically. The same applies to the settings. Even this is an entry-level camera, you are able to create these amazing shots. So this is something called panning, where we are able to coordinate the movement of the camera with the movement of tram or car or whatever, and we get that amazing result. So, and some more shots from my favorite city, and I probably should know that all these shots are just JPEGs taken directly from the camera, so I did not edit these shots, I just did not change anything. These are just pictures as we got them from the camera, directly from JPEGs. And again, it's up to you if you like these shots. I have to admit that for beginners, this camera would just serve its purpose. And some more streets from the evening glide in Prague. As you know, I never forget to mention that regardless of camera or lenses you have, what really matters is your ability to find nice composition. It's your ability to find nice light, and that is what really matters. So if you want to open these new horizons and leave the world of mobile phones, this camera can just help you to do that. Let us jump to the east part of the Czech Republic, to Moravia and the mountains, where I just like to go to the forests and just be relaxed and happy. And you can see one more example how that camera would capture an amazing church hidden somewhere in the middle of mountains. And some rather kitschy photos of flowers just in the light of sunset. By the way, what you should definitely try is that what you can see here, it's called blue hour, and just do wait for maybe time 20 minutes after sunset, and you'll really be surprised that your eye can't see it, but your camera will be able to capture the blue, not in gray, but in blue like here. And as you might remember, at the beginning of this review, we summed up, well, quite good results of night photography for this camera. So do not be shy to rise ISO to relatively high levels. And dog called Amba, which is not happy because Canon R100, as we already mentioned, is not equipped with detection of dogs or cats, but still we can take nice shots, as you can see here. And for many people, these shots can be taken as a result of, well, your first experiment. So if you just buy this camera, go to the fields, play around, and you might be surprised that the results would actually be quite good. Please do note one little trick. As I mentioned, I was not really excited much by the kit lens 18 to 45. Well, all these shots are actually taken with this very basic lens, but my advice would be just do study it a little bit and do use, for instance, aperture priority for those shots, and do keep the levels of aperture not at the base level. So just to make the aperture be a little bit higher than its minimum levels, because, and that's the reason, if you rise aperture a little bit, the image quality would be just much better. The shot would be, the details would be sharper, and you'll be generally much more happy about the results. Some more shots, one more situation, and bees. Well, again, this is not something really exciting, but these shots just should show you that even with that camera, you are able to do little tricks like that. When, as you can see, I have taken really dozens of photos of flying bees, and sometimes you are just lucky enough to have them focused. Take as many shots as you want and be happy. And one more important scene, where we are These are firemen, and we are just entering amazing celebration, amazing day in which that village was saying goodbye to a priest who was, well, in that church for nearly 30 years. So it was a huge celebration, huge day full of, well, firemen and musicians. And as you can see, these shots were really tough. Well, they would be tough to capture not only for that camera, but for any camera in the world, because there is a lot of direct sunlight, there is a lot of whites, a lot of blacks, and I have to admit, quite politely surprised that these results, and again, these are unedited photos, are quite good. So I have to say that that was very important for me to see that if you take this camera to actions like that, which are very complex and very complicated, you can still expect quite good results. And here is the priest Andrei, who is leaving the village after 29 years. And again, firemen and his colleagues, and a lot of sun, a lot of shadows, but the results are good. So I believe these photos can actually serve as a nice final point of that review. I really honestly believe that if you just want to open new horizons, if you want just to leave the world of mobile phones, this camera might serve as a good starting point, because as you can see here, the results are really good. And one more short chapter, which is about video. As I mentioned, I'm not a big specialist in video, so I'm not able to give you a balanced view. So what I can do is just to show you a couple of examples, and that's exactly what I am doing right now. So you can see by yourself the results of how Canon R100 is able to record video. And well, these shots were taken with the maximum quality. It means they were recorded into 4K with 25 frames per second. So thank you so much. I hope that my review helped you at least a little bit, and I wish you good luck. I'm Jan from Prague, the Czech Republic.